COVID, gangbusters with ratings. COVID, gangbusters with ratings, right? Which is why we constantly have the death toll on the side. Let's make it higher. Like, why isn't it high enough, today? Like, it would make our point better if it was higher. It's fear. Like, fear really drives numbers. Fear is the thing that keeps you tuned in. If it bleeds, it leads. Yeah.
If it bleeds, it leads?
Yeah. No one ever says those things out loud, but it's obvious.
What you're about to see is so shocking. Admission.
A closing statement to Mr. Jordan.
I thank the chairman for yielding. When this virus initially came on the scene, Dr. Fauci initially told the American people you don't need to wear a mask. Then he later said, no, you need to wear a mask. Then he said, no, you need to wear 2 masks. Then after that, he said, no, back to 1 mask. Then of course, we went to no mask, and now he's talking about we need to wear a mask again. When it comes to the question of the origin of the virus, Dr. Fauci's had just as many positions. He initially said the United States taxpayer money did not fund the Wuhan Institute of Virology. He later changed that and says, no, we did fund it, but it was through a sub-grant. Then he subsequently said, no, we funded it, but we did no gain-of-function research. And then just last Sunday, he said, well, we funded it. There was gain-of-function research, but it was a sound scientific decision. And then he said this: it would have been negligent to not fund the lab in China. I mean, talk about being all over the board. I'll tell you what's negligent. Negligent is Dr. Fauci's ever-changing statements to the American people regarding the subject matter that this committee should be looking into. I want you to look at this email that we got through the FOIA, that others got, that we were able to view through the FOIA request about, this goes clear back to January 31st, 2020, a 10:32 p.m. email that Dr. Fauci received from Dr. Christian Anderson. Dr. Christian Anderson is one of the individuals who gets our tax dollars. The folks I represent, their tax dollars. Dr. Anderson sent this email to Dr. Fauci, and he said this: the unusual features of the virus make up a really small part of the genome, so one has to look really closely at all the sequences to see that some of the features look engineered. And that last clause is the key. Some of the features of this virus look engineered. He went on to say further, I should mention that after discussions earlier today with Eddie, Bob, Mike, these are other virologists, other doctors around the world who receive our tax dollars via grants from Dr. Fauci. Eddie, Bob, and Mike, and myself all find the genome inconsistent with expectations from evolutionary theory. That's a fancy way of saying it's not consistent with evolutionary theory. So the virus looks engineered, not consistent with evolutionary theory. Less than 24 hours after this email, the very next day, less than 24 hours later, Dr. Fauci organizes a conference call with 11 virologists from around the world. He's the only person from the government on that call, and that's where they talk about getting their story straight and what they're going to tell the American people, even though one of the top scientists in the world says this virus is engineered, this virus is not consistent with evolutionary theory. Now, we don't know what happened on that phone call because every single email regarding that phone call, every single one, has been redacted. I hope the majority will actually join us in calling for these to be unredacted and given to this committee. Every single one's read. We do know what happened 3 days later. Dr. Anderson changed his story, and he went from this virus looks engineered, this virus is not consistent with evolutionary theory, to you're crazy if you think it came from the lab. I find that interesting because one of the guys who testified 4 weeks ago when Dr. Fauci wouldn't was Dr. Girard, who's testified in front of this committee a couple times, former Assistant Secretary for Health. Here's what Dr. Girard said: I believe it's just too much of a coincidence that the worldwide pandemic caused by a novel bat coronavirus that cannot be found in nature started just a few miles away from a secretive laboratory doing potentially dangerous research on bat coronaviruses. Well, Shazam, that's pretty common sense. Dr. Fauci, I think, was on notice of this very fact clear back on January 31st, 2020. What we all now see as common sense, Dr. Fauci continues to downplay, continues to say is not true. And here's what's interesting. This Thursday, we just found out, this Thursday, the majority has asked Dr. Fauci to come back in front of this committee for a third time. Third time. But guess what? It's not going to be public. It's going to be private. Private briefing. After all these concerns have been raised, you got what Dr. Girard said, you got what everyone says. Anyone with common sense now knows the most likely origin of this virus was that lab in Wuhan, China. The Democrats bringing Dr. Fauci back, but he won't be in public. A private briefing. Why? Why won't you do it publicly? Dr. Fauci's testified 18 times in front of Congress. He's been on every news show you can imagine, more than once. You can't go a day without seeing him on TV. But now the Select Committee on Coronavirus won't bring him in for a public hearing to address these issues. Nope, it's going to be private. As I said earlier, the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal think we should get to the bottom of this. Pretty much everyone thinks we should get to the bottom of this, except the Democrats on the Select Committee on Coronavirus. So I hope at least the majority will join the minority and say, at least give us the unredacted emails from this all-important meeting on February 1st, 2020, where these guys, I believe, got their story straight and decided to mislead the American public for over a year about the origins of this virus. I hope the majority will at least join us for that. I yield back.
I thank the gentleman for yielding back. I would like to say that in view of his comments concerning the briefing.
Hey, can you turn my headphones up, please? Right there? Thank you, Crip. Hey, backseat. Ooh, you want the answer? Better ask me. I'm so sick with the flow. Ain't no backseat. Ain't nothing funny like a bad dream. I'm stumbling off the drink like I'm old. They got a bad knee. This video got me stuck. Ooh, this chain too exclusive. Spitting in the booth like I'm toothless. Put up in the coop and it's ruthless. No excuses. Were some white ones the first day? Then they useless. Hey, I'm slizzard off the juice. Hey, homie got a problem. Then this Mac with solutions. No cap. I refuse.